Welcome to the Wealth and Wellness Report. I'm your host, Diego. This is the podcast where we dive deeply into the intersection of financial health, personal development, and legacy. Today, I have a wonderful guest. Her name's Cassondra Segovia. Cassondra, thanks for coming out to the show and meeting with me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you're one of my best friend's fiance.
Yes.
Ryan, who's doing all of our behind the scenes, behind the camera work for us on this show, said like so much about you. And I'm like so excited to meet you today because you and I haven't really had any time to have a conversation and get to know each other. I think for our audience, we'd certainly love to hear about who you are and where you come from, and maybe tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah. I am from Belmont, California, and I've been in the hair industry for around 15 plus years. And I started my hair industry in LA, and it's been really nice. I feel like it is kind of where I started my health journey. And I think it came from being in a very high stress environment for so long, and really realizing that I was maybe working more means goals instead of end goal. So with that, it kind of had this domino effect for my health after, setting goals, reaching them, more goals, and then one day waking up and not feeling fulfilled. And so,
yeah. So timeline wise, I assume this all happened before COVID, before the pandemic?
This is pre-pandemic, yes. 2015, I moved to LA, and then I was an assistant, and I wanted to work in celebrity hair. So I got to do it for 2015 to around 2020, right before the pandemic. And yeah, I feel like I accomplished a lot, but it, the mental part I think wasn't there because I was in such like lack, and I was in the like not good enough. And I don't think that I healed that root before going into it.
Like a imposter syndrome?
Yeah, exactly. And because I didn't heal that, I was going into opportunities and doubting and probably putting so much stress on my body and like environmental stress, thinking that, well, that's how I'm going to make it. So, yeah. So
the hair and beauty industries are probably pretty hectic and stressful.
Yes.
I'd imagine like a lot of turnover, and
yes.
you're having to work with celebrities, which is probably like high level impact and high expectations.
Yes.
What got you into the hair and beauty industry? So
I worked at a salon when I was in high school, and I was going to go to college. So I went maybe for 2 months, and then I just decided one day that, I want to do hair.
Cool.
And I got really into it. I did it on myself, friends, and all of that. And I was just really into the glitz and the glam of it, making someone feel good. I just felt like it was like, and I love to chat. So that was always really nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did when you started, were you working with someone, or did you just go out on your own? Or?
Yeah, I actually didn't know anyone in LA. I didn't have any connections. So I started in a very small salon in Beverly Hills. This guy, Nikolai, he taught me how to blow dry. That's kind of where I learned to properly blow dry someone's hair, because when you're first starting out, you're accidentally like getting their ear or whatever. And so I started there, and then I didn't have any experience. So no, at that time when you're showing your resume, you don't have anything under the belt. They kind of shut the door. No one wants to really give you the interview. So with that, I just built. So I went there, I stayed there for a year, learned as much as I could. And then I went on to something else. I worked for another gentleman. He was still in Beverly Hills, and his name was John Francis. And then now I was at year 2 gaining some experience. So then I went to Sally Hirschberger. I worked for another 2 hairstylists, and that's when I knew. And in between, I was still applying at 901, which is a salon that I worked at.
Cool.
Yeah.
So like an apprentice kind of level position.
Yes.
You're helping kind of the main hairstylist.
Yes.
Cool.
And you have to, they say about like 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
So I got really sick and I had gotten fired. And I was going to come back to San Francisco. And then a boss at the time was like, try and just keep trying. So if they say no, try one more time. So I decided to try one more time, and I did my 4th interview, and then I ended up getting it.
Consistency and persistence.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. So I got the job, and then, I assisted there for a little under 4 years.
Cool.
Yeah. And I was able to, really get a foundation and learn all the things. I'm grateful for working there. It was just very cutthroat, but I think it kind of built me into the stylist that I am today. But with that said, it was a lot on the mental. And I think when you go in and you haven't healed any of those parts of yourself, they show up really
long hours,
big
grind.
Yeah. Yes. And I had, I think everything in my life at that moment, even though my career was it was doing amazing. I was doing award shows. I was at the Golden Globes. I was doing hair for so many celebrities. I'd gone into Steven Tyler's home for the Grammys. We went, and then I went to Paris Hilton's. I was really at this peak. And I was actually at like one of the darkest times of my life.
Interesting.
And so it's very like, I think I was pushing a lot and I was just submerging myself into work. And I thought that, okay, well, I'm fine. And I think one day you try to be okay for so long that your body pushes and will say like, we're done.
Yeah.
So that's
interesting. And then that experience drew you closer to the health and wellness.
Yes. So
space?
I was in kind of like a roommate toxic situation. I was in a relationship toxic situation, and then with my everything work situation, everything. Yeah. I was just in all around. And
was that around COVID time?
This is right before COVID. Yeah. So this was, I had my 30th birthday. It was 2018, and my brother had just passed as well. And then I think, my boss was also, we were both just she was the one that, really opened me up to working on myself, and she took me under her wing. And we always say like, we were both holding on for dear life. She had witnessed, this really tragic murder. My brother had passed. And so we were both like, all right, what does this mean for us? So she actually introduced me to Marianne Williamson, the book called Return to Love. And when you're not ready, you're kind of like, okay. So I remember this book actually changed my life, but when she had taken me to the seminar, I remember being on my phone and I was like, not really like wanting to be there. And then back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I was not paying attention because I ended up kind of hitting that breaking point. I got a dog, and then I just started playing Marianne Williamson on YouTube.
Just on repeat.
Repeat. I was listening, I think it was like 4 hours, and I will never forget. She was like, if you wake up and you're like not happy with your life, like do something about it.
Take action.
Yeah. So I woke up one day and I realized I'm 30 and I'm not on the salon floor yet, and I want to make a move. So I went and did a wedding in New York, and when I got there, I fell in love. And so I was one of the days a little bit like text a girlfriend like, is your salon hiring? And she was like, yes. And so I sent my resume over, and I actually ended up just getting a job as a stylist
in New York City.
In New York City. Yeah.
That's such a cool story, because I've heard so many other stories too where, challenge and trial and tribulation in someone's life, you typically hit rock bottom and there's only one way to go, and it's back up. Yes. And that wealth and health drive like really amps up. I think particularly after the pandemic, there was a lot more awareness in people's lives about being healthy. Yes. Not only in their minds and their bodies and souls, but like the built environment, which I think is really my business does a lot of wellness infrastructure for homes in particular. So when COVID hit and everybody was home, they were looking at their spaces, they were trying to stay healthy, and everything was disconnected and they were feeling very discontent with everything. So that kind of propelled this massive surge, I think, in the wellness space.
Absolutely agree.
You know, mind, body, but then also like the environment.
Yes. It's interesting that you bring that up because that was exactly what happened. It was the first time in my life that it was quiet. There was no distractions. And then it was like, well, who is Cassondra Segovia? And so I feel like I opened up this book called The Artist's Way, and it's like morning pages for 12 weeks, and you have to do it every morning. And then it started with small things like making your bed and like just trying to get some normalcy. Yeah. And
to practice.
Yeah. And I think when everything was shut down, that was like, whoa, okay, what do I want? Well, yeah, what matters? And I think I totally agree. I think everyone was trying to, they were more into getting movement in, and there was a lot of like people doing videos and so I definitely feel like that's kind of where like the heavy work was on my mental.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's great. So the New York City job that you had, was that right before COVID?
Right before COVID.
Okay.
Yes.
So then COVID hits. What happened after the pandemic?
COVID hits. I was working, I was doing a client, her name is Erica Jane, and she was incredible. She was on Broadway. She was Roxy. And one day she kind of looked at me and was like, you don't look well. So she gave me some money to go to the doctor, and I went in, and they were like, if you would have came here a day later, like you wouldn't have made it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And so I think my body then was telling me, being really loud, and I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
And so that happened. I ended up being fine. And then it shuts down. The work was great. Everyone, it was just
Work
like
continued?
booming. It continued.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. We were off like 3.
That's great.
Yeah. I started a clothing line for a little bit.
Oh, nice.
And I was tied.
So you're a serial entrepreneur. It sounds like.
Yeah, I do
you got hustles going on.
Yes,
that's
I
awesome.
do like it, whether they hit or not. Like sometimes
Trying
just at least I'm trying. Yes.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I was tie dyeing 62 pieces in my New York apartment downstairs. I remember the landlord was like, "You cannot be doing this," and I was like, "Okay." So I do it at like 2 a.m. I'm like, "Okay, sorry," and I sold all of them, but then I went back to work. And so, and then I think that you were saying like everyone kind of realized like what mattered to them, and then it just wasn't the same. I think that everyone was very scared. It was
it was a crazy.
It was a crazy time.
Super crazy.
And I think that's when people were taking lighter workloads and realizing that other things mattered versus the kind of the hustle that everyone was so used to. Like you have to work so hard, and you have to kind of like neglect yourself to like get to where you want. And I think it's awesome that after quarantine, I feel like it changed and
everybody's perspective changed.
Yes.
And it kind of was drawn to the self rather than to the external world as much.
Yeah. And so I think that was about that year. I realized that, and I was like, all right, I think I'm ready to leave New York, just cause I felt health wise too. It's a city where drinking everyone was, they were stressed out, and then they would go, it was fun and it was partying. And I always joke around because I would go onto the subway and it was almost like zombies, because like everyone would be so like, from like happy hour, and I'd be like, whoa.
That's kind of scary.
It was a little bit scary. And then I think that after it was changing, but it wasn't there yet. Like now I feel like it's totally balanced. But it was definitely this period where I was like, you know what? I do at some point want to settle down. I do want to create a life with a little bit more meaning. And so, then I decided to head back to California. And I actually ended up, I went to San Diego first. And I think that's kind of where I was very lost in a relationship, and it didn't work out. And then I ended up heading back to LA for the 3rd time. And every time I leave LA, I'm like, I'm never coming back here. And then it was the 3rd time, and I was like, I'm part of like this movie where you like wake up and you're here. And then I'm like,
I'm here again.
I did all this work to leave, and how am I here again? Yeah. And so I went and I just started building. So I built a clientele in New York City, and then I went to San Diego. I built a whole nother clientele. And then I went
so you had to like start your whole book of business over again.
Yes.
Did any of it come back from New York or?
Yes. So I still have some clients that are from New York that,
I'll see.
Yes.
That's great.
And when I was in San Diego, I decided to move back to LA, and I was kind of doing the same thing, like when I was looping my patterns, and I was thriving in chaos. And one day I drank a Celsius and I got in my car and I had a panic attack behind the wheel.
Oh no.
And that started panic attacks from then until basically today.
Wow.
And yeah. And so, I think it was, like I said, like my body being like, like this isn't working.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And so then I was dealing with that, and now I get them, but it's just when I'm driving. But before, I was getting them in buildings, and I wasn't able to just do day to day. So I actually ended up taking an SSRI. And
what's an SSRI?
So it's anxiety medication. I took 10 milligrams of Lexapro for about 2 years, and my body didn't like it, but I was able to just function in it. And so one day my girlfriend's like, you have to go see someone. So I was like, okay. And there was this buzzword on like TikTok. Everyone's talking about Lexapro and everyone loved it. And so I was like, okay, I think I need that. So I got it, and I ended up gaining 65 pounds of inflammation. And it put me in really bad health.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
So it did the opposite.
It did the opposite. I could drive, but it did the opposite. So dealing with like that and trying to be healthy and reading the books, and I do probably about 3 self-help books a year, and I was not understanding what my body was doing, so I got naturopaths over, like I did the Candida cleanse. I did no alcohol for I was trying all the things. I took like all these supplements. I was like looking at things online, and then at some point it's just nothing was working. And I was like, this is so weird. And then that's when I had found out that I had insulin resistance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So probably the alcohol you probably had to stop drinking.
Yeah. So I stopped drinking. I've always, I had changed my relationship with alcohol the year before. So that part was like, okay, I've always maybe like once I do 24 days of cleanse of just like at the restart of the body. So yeah, but this time it was like 3 months, and I was trying to figure out like, what is the cause of this? Is it, but I think, what came from all of that was it's just environmental stress, and I didn't realize that I had really bad habits.
Yeah. So now that, that's huge. Like being able to become self-aware and then learn about what doesn't work.
Yes.
Like since you found out about this insulin resistance, have you? I'm sure you have you put together and structured like a new kind of regimen?
Yes.
Of health?
Yes.
And if so, what do you do on a daily basis?
Yes. So I am currently on a GLP-1. I'm taking 12.5 milligrams of tirzepatide. What was happening from the insulin resistance is it was putting me towards pre-diabetic. So this is to reverse it. At the time that I was diagnosed with that, I didn't want to take it because I was hearing all of this like buzz on Ozempic, and it was like,
oh, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's the easy way out and all the things. So when I looked at my health, I was like, I was on spironolactone, which was a blood pressure medicine for someone that had bad skin. I was taking that, and that's when like the gut issues, I think this is where it all started, was gut issues from medication. And then you kind of go into the insulin resistance. So I was like watching my whole history of health, and I'm like, oh, everything is just a Band-Aid. Nothing's getting to the root. So and through all of this, I had a life coach as well. So we're having to like heal parts of like, my relationships, and then like
the emotional
all this,
self, and the physical self, and all that.
And we're thinking of like back then when we were, manifesting my fiance, it was like this loop that I was on constantly. So it's like when you heal a relationship with yourself, you're healing with relationships with everything. And it's still work in progress, ebb and flow, of course, but
it's a lifelong journey.
Life never stops, which I'm learning. And so, so I got on the GLP-1, and I think that I'm learning so much from it, and I like rave about it, and I'm passionate about it, and I have a TikTok about it, because I think it's important to like normalize that maybe your body does need a little bit of help from something, and that's okay. And it has decreased so much inflammation on my body, and has helped so much.
I think nowadays with the medical industry and the type of medicines available, I personally lean towards like a kind of a combination of Eastern and Western medicine.
Okay.
You know, Western, like when you really need antibiotics or when you really need something. Eastern medicine's a lot of preventative type medicine where you're doing things on a daily basis that like promote health and wellness, which I absolutely love to do.
Yeah.
The internal self, your internal world began to heal. And then I want to kind of go back in time a little bit, like, because you guys were living in LA, you met Ryan, you guys got engaged, probably feeling really good.
Yeah.
And then an external event happens, the LA wildfires come in. Like, how did you play through that? How was life through that process?
So I think because I had done so much work prior, that I was actually able to hold space for the people affected instead of it eating. Like, we ended up coming to San Francisco and allowing our friend that lost his home to stay in our home. And I'm super empathic. I felt everything. At 9:00 that morning when the fires were happening, Ryan was taking me to an appointment, and I was like, oh, look over there. That's crazy. And then I was having a bad day, or I was just felt really like off. And so I was like, God, it's so weird. And then all of a sudden it was like 5 p.m. maybe. And then it was just domino, like, whoa, look at the news. Oh, what's going on? It happened
so fast.
Yes. And so we left. So I was able to put a little space in between to be able to be there for clients that are affected, be there for like anyone that needed anything.
Yeah. Do you think it was a test?
Yes.
Like, I mean, it's really interesting. I think it's magic. You know, what you call it, God, you call it the universe or whatever.
Yes.
Like you're preparing yourself for something, and then this event happened. Do you feel like that was some sort of test to a degree?
I do. We were actually planning on leaving LA a couple months before that. And I think that when you are stalling to do something, the universe will push you and make sure, like, okay, hello, like, this is not working. And I think I was so scared for my health as well. And then it was like, but I want to be there for everyone. So I think there was just like an internal, like, I left and I thought I was going to feel better. And then I looked at Ryan, like, we got to head back there. Like, I got to do something to help, you know? So I think like, knowing that you can still be compassionate and, you know, in those moments of
it's so interesting. Cause you know, that whole saying where you can't give somebody water out of your cup unless you fill up your own to the top, right?
Yes.
Like you got to do you first in order to help others.
Yes.
I think that's such an important lesson for everybody to learn and to consider in their lives is like, you know, self-care is everything.
Yeah.
And then once you take care of yourself, then you have the ability to take care of others, especially in a parental role, you know, because when you have kids, like your whole world changes and it's all about the children.
Yeah.
And having a strong constitution, a strong mind, and a strong body allows you to really be present for the next generation. So I think that's really, I think that's, to me, it sounds beautiful. You know, like you're going through something, it's so challenging. And then all of a sudden shit hits the fan again. And then this time around, you're like, I got this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't so like, I feel like consumed by it. You know, I was telling my fiance as well, I'm like, you know, right now we're here and I'm able to rest because I know once I go there, it's a lot of energy towards, you know, the 4 families that, you know, lost their homes or clients that were coming in. It affected everyone. It didn't matter at the end of the day, you know, who was rich, who was, you know, middle class, whatever it was, everyone still grieved the same. Everyone's human. They're still going to be upset that this is devastating in our city, you know? So it was nice to be able to see everyone come together and be able to hold the space for it too.
So are you going back to LA still or?
Yes.
Okay.
I head back once a month.
Awesome.
Yeah. Clientele's still out there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think that, like we were saying too, like filling your cup up and then going, it just, it's better for me that way. Just because I'm able to like deal with my health here. It's hard to be in the city there and trying to, you know, people say like, you can't heal in a city that broke you. That's like kind of how I feel sometimes because I feel like there's like these 3 different versions of myself when I lived there. And then, and I've been able to be here and be closer to family, have more of a regimen, you know, and be able to really like figure out like, all right, I have the time to be able to like not be so stressed.
Yeah.
I feel like not compare and really like turn it off. And then when I go there, I'm rested.
And you said family, which is everything.
Yes.
For me too.
Yes.
I learned, which is really cool, something about you, that you are Richard Segovia's daughter, who's a really well-known guitar player in San Francisco.
Yes.
And then your family is also, you guys run like a salsa guacamole company called Casa Sanchez. I was just pulling some of that stuff out yesterday with dinner and noticed this guy on a corn cob that looked like a rocket. And I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
How does that, or do you have a role in the business or?
Nope. I have no. They're just like family members. You know, I feel like in our family, we have so many, the great thing is that it's been about, even if there's a friend or a cousin or all of that, I feel like we're all like, we consider like family, whether it's like a little one cousin here, there, whatever.
Friends or uncles.
Friends and uncles. Yeah. So, I don't have anything in that business. And then I'm not really involved in, anything with my dad and his band. But, I think that the mindset that I have and, entrepreneur and wanting to do more and all of that, I think that comes from, really early on.
Yeah.
Which I felt is great. You know, obviously it comes with a little bit of pressure, but
of course. Well, that's how diamonds are made, right?
Yeah.
So because I don't know too much about the Casa Sanchez business, because it's a really great product.
Yeah.
And you can
really
find
amazing.
it pretty much anywhere. Chips, guacamole, salsa.
Yeah.
Where were you involved at all during the time of that business, or
no?
Is it a like cousin?
It's so it is two of my cousins. It's actually their family that owns it. And they help with it, but then they also are in real estate. So it's a big family of entrepreneurs and very successful, and they're very tight, and they are just like incredible people.
So you probably learned a lot from them.
Yes. Cool. And I was able to actually, when my brother had passed, I had a cousin who ended up connecting with one of the friends of their, like they ended up having babies and getting, together. And so it's all been really, really beautiful. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's nice to see, but yeah, I don't know too much, on the back end. It just was kind of something that I didn't really know until it was, my dad's like, oh my gosh, look, I'm like, oh, I see this everywhere. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. When Ryan told me, I was like, gosh, we buy this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
It's a great product.
Yeah. It actually reminded me, cause my mother also, entrepreneur, along with my aunts and, cousins, everybody, they've got some hustle, whether it's, business in Pilates or food or cafes, or my cousin Veronica, she's, in the beauty and health and, wellness space in South America, where
amazing.
She's doing Botox and, promoting tennis and like all this really cool stuff. But what I think of immediately, and I don't know why I had this thought, is my mother and my aunt, they used to make a Bolivian dish called salteñas. And they would like just make hundreds of salteñas, which are these little Bolivian empanadas, and you fill it up with like ground beef and like a little bit of red sauce and really, really good. So they used to make this stuff by like the hundreds, and they would get an extra fridge, and we would just have salteñas in all the fridges, like to the brim. And my dad would in the evenings like shave off like a tray or two, before they go out to the markets to sell all this stuff. So like my mom and my aunt were like, we're short like 20 salteñas. Like what's going on? And then my dad was like, actually, I've been taking them to work and I've been giving them to all the guys.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So like being in a food business,
yes,
it's so cool because you're just there's abundance. You're always sharing and stuff, and because it's family, I think that's. I immediately think about that, how like you're making salsa, you're making guacamole, making chips, and like you just are good in that department. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
sure.
I it's been really awesome to meet you. Do you have anything to add? I know you're doing a lot of TikTok and promoting your health and wellness business.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yes. I started a TikTok. I was going to a med spa to get the GLP-1, and then I just turned on my camera and I was asked TikTok, like, is this price seem weird? And then basically it like blew up, and I got all these comments of being like, that is way too much. And so I found a online telehealth and it's called Fridays. And it had, the blood work was included, a nutritionist, a dietitian, support 24/7. Yeah. So it's been nice to be able to like share that and be part of a community, because I didn't know anyone around me that was on it or that was willing to admit that they were on it. So, cause it is sometimes a little bit taboo still. I hear that a lot from my followers.
Really? In what way?
That, people don't want to say that they're on it because of the negative,
like judgment,
maybe it's the easy way out or whatever it is. But, so not everyone feels like they want to share, but,
so this is a program that you put together, or?
So, not a it's more of, like everyone has their different providers of where they're getting it from.
Okay.
But, it's just, you can get it from, there's so many different areas you can get it from, but it's just mostly off of like, do you want to share your story or not kind of thing? Just because, I don't know, sometimes people just don't want to say that they're on something like that, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's, it's all about self-care. So who gives a rat's ass what other people
that's how I
think?
feel.
You
and I
know
also,
what I mean?
and that's why I was okay to share it. And it's funny, when I first was on it, a lot of people were like, don't tell anyone. And it was like, that's not really like how I live my life. I'm like so open and vulnerable. So it's been nice because on TikTok, it's a great community and a great platform, because there's so many people that are like, oh, what you posted today like really helped me. Or I post like my struggles sometimes too. And I think it's important for like mental health for someone that like me, who probably needs to be on an SSRI, and I'm deciding not to be on one because I'm trying to be really healthy and mindful of what I'm, my day to day, and seeing if I can heal through that. The GLP-1, sometimes it's hard to get up. And so, sticking with it, I remember someone saying, like, don't look at like the scale goals so much, like look at your non-scale wins. Yeah. Like, this is a year where I've been in the gym the most than I've been in last year. Yeah. This is where I, mentally have been really, so like just kind of look more at that than being like, oh, okay, I'm going to take this thing and I want to be a certain weight or whatever.
That's really interesting, because I think in the United States, or at least in our Western culture, we all want to push the easy button. Yes. And we all want to, just get right, like with comfort. Yes.
What's quick, what's fast.
Exactly. It's funny because the magic is in the work that you're avoiding, I think. So if you're attacking that fear, or you're going into arenas where you're uncomfortable, it's amazing what will happen when you do the work. Yes. I just, from personal experience too, because I was going through a lot of health stuff about a couple of years ago. Okay. I was getting blood work back from the doctor that had precursors to liver disease. Oh. And I was drinking a lot. I was smoking a lot. Yeah. I wasn't eating well. And I had like this aha moment where like, if I don't do something now, because I'm about to turn 40 years old, then I'm going to turn, out like a lot of my family who just never took care of themselves. And
that's probably where you heard, like, if you don't have your health, you have nothing.
Exactly. Like, all of the horror stories started to come into my brain. And then I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to do something about it. So I decided to get into the gym. I decided to eat clean. I decided to stop drinking, stop smoking, and just like focus on me. And it was it was a time where like there was a lot of turmoil in my business too. Like, everything was chaotic. And like, I feel like your story really resonates with me too, because it was just like, felt like organized chaos, but I was like holding on for dear life, and my health was deteriorating, and I wanted to be there for my son and my fiance, and like I wanted to become Diego 10.0. And in order to do that, I had to let go of a lot. And those vices were so hard to let go of. But once I did, and I got over that hill, it was like, it was all downhill, and it felt so easy to get into the routine, to get in the habit of like just taking care of myself. So I put myself first. And then when I did that, like the business started doing well, money started flowing in more.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, there's something to this. And then I just went in super deep and felt like, okay, I need to share this with everybody. And a big reason why I wanted to start this podcast and have it be about wealth and wellness, because I feel like they're inseparable.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have wealth without wellness.
Totally.
And if you have wealth and you don't have wellness, well, then you're probably extremely unhappy. And if you have wellness, and you don't have wealth, then you're probably not doing the proper practice in that arena. So, I think we have a lot in common in that regard.
Absolutely. I know. I was actually just saying, I don't know if you're into like the spiritual stuff.
Absolutely.
But I'm like really into it. And it was saying that like with your health, that like you're like the vessel of it, basically for like energetic, if like issues, then like it can't flow. So your wealth actually isn't able to like energetically flow within you. Which I think makes so much sense.
So much sense. Because if it's congested here, it's going to be congested elsewhere.
Yeah.
I did a lot of shaman work actually before COVID.
Yeah.
No psychedelics or anything like that. It was just just breath work and meditation. And it got me through a really, really tough time in my life.
Yeah.
And I brought out all the things like, I mean, crystals and meditation and exercise and fasting and all this. And then the pandemic hit. And then like a lot of people, either they dove deep into health or they like got really unhealthy.
Yes.
So I got really unhealthy. So I was on a really good trajectory. Pandemic hit. And then I'm like, okay, gosh, now I gotta, like, it just felt like a big party. Nobody's working, nobody's going to school. Like, let's just play.
Happy hour Zooms,
no pants. Like, it's like really,
You're like eating weird stuff from your fridge.
Right. So after that, like second, like hit, because it sounded like you got a second hit too. Like that, then I felt prepared. Like I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to my toolkit.
Yes,
I'm going to go back to what I have that I know works, that I can pull out and then utilize.
Yeah.
And I read a really great book called the Kaizen Way, which is it's like an old Japanese practice. It's all about taking small steps to instill change.
Yeah.
So even little things like you mentioned earlier, like making your bed.
Yes.
Or, you know, you have that protein shake at the same time every day. Yeah. Or you go to the gym and you do these small little things, and they compound and they actually stack up.
Yeah, habit stacking. I love it.
It's so good.
Yeah, we did Atomic Habits. It was one of the books that was a cool book.
Yeah, that's a great book.
And it was like sitting there for so long, and I finally was like, all right.
And then you were finally ready to read it. Yeah.
Because I think like lately, I don't know if I'd said this before, but like if the thing like you're resisting the most is probably like what you need to do. And I think like before I just, I would have that resistance, and then it would get me in that like low vibration of like, oh, later. And I think books like that, and there's this book called Let Them that I'm reading right now by Mel Robbins.
Oh, cool.
Because I feel like at this part, I think that like if you're also like externally healthy, but your mind is a dumpster, it's not going to be good. So right now I feel like I've been working on like reading this other book called like, Don't Believe Everything You Think. Cause like the overthinking and all of that. Yeah. I think it all just is connected. Like, I know I read a bunch of books and podcasts, and it just talks about like having a regimen of like being healthy, what you're putting in your body, then, you know, your wealth, and then your mind. And I think there's something to all these little things, because everyone that's done it, it's like a secret recipe.
It's so
and everyone's
good.
becoming the best version of themselves.
And that's what's up, because the whole world is chaos. You know, like it's just constant chaos, and we're fed it every day on the news, and you know, and a lot of people don't have the ability to find a beacon or a community center where they can really gather and talk about this stuff. So I'm extremely grateful every day that I'm able to get up and do what I do, because I know a lot of people don't have the ability to do what they love.
Absolutely.
And they're oppressed, and it's just really, it saddens me. And I have a lot of empathy for those communities that are impoverished and are going through a lot of turmoil because of the lack of access to good food. Cause I really believe food is medicine.
Yeah. I think absolutely. I've been learning a lot about that because I was doing so much empty eating before. On a GLP-1, you have to get so much protein in. Protein really has to be there, and water and steps. And I think that with food, it was like, I look back at what I was eating and I'm like, there was like no nutritional value in like a lot of those meals. Or it's like, you know, a little bit of like chicken like this and a big salad. And it's like, well, probably didn't do much for me.
Do you track your macros, or
you know, I'm not a tracker.
Okay.
I've tried, I've done all, you know, I think what works for me is, like, I know what the plate's supposed to like, you know, what works for me, it's like high protein and, making sure that I'm feeling good after, you know, you're like, ooh, I had that meal and I'm feeling good, versus when you eat something, you're like, oh, I'm so full. Yeah. So I think, I wish I feel like I'm also sometimes like a little bit like, oh, I wish I was someone that counted macros, or like they kept their food log, because people will like see great results, and I'm like, I tried.
It's hard to stay consistent, you know, and then you're with family and everybody's eating, and you're like, why aren't you eating? Well, I got to track my carbs, and you know,
with the GLP-1, it shuts down the food noise. So I'm actually able to go about my day without thinking about like, oh, I'm snack. I don't know how to describe it. Like the food noise is gone. So I'm able to like properly just have my meal, I get full, and that's it.
Yeah. To eat for fuel rather than to eat for comfort or social reasons, I think is,
I was a huge
kind of a mental shift. You know?
Yes. I was a huge, like binge and restrict for a long time. And, you know, when you look back at photos, it's like, well, you looked great. And it's like crazy how like you can look good on the outside, but the inside could be absolutely like wrecked. And I think it was like, the binge and restrict for so long. And it was something that just worked for me. Like, okay, I know that I want to like feel and look a certain way. So I'm going to go on 24-day AdvoCare cleanse, and I would do it every year, and it would like slam me down. I'd get the abs, do all the things. And then, I think when you're not healing the part of like restricting so much and why you're restricting, because you're like not taking care of yourself in those other days, and you're not getting balance. Like there was just no balance. Or harmony. I like to use that word harmony too. I've never heard that,
because there's always going to be a teeter-totter. It's like a teeter-totter with the balance. Like you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. But if you're able to harmonize everything into like a holistic regimen, and you do have a bad day, well, you know where to go and how to address it. Right. And the mental, I think the mindset, you know, got to change that mindset, because then, you know, the body follows the mind. And I love, I don't know if you know Dan Martell, but Dan, is an amazing entrepreneur, and he blew up on social, and, he loves to say, exhaust the body, tame the mind. Because if you exhaust the body, your mind is going to be calm and collected, and you're able to make better decisions, because you're not like constantly having those wheels turn, like, should I do this? And then the anxiety, and it becomes kind of overwhelming. And when you are overwhelmed, that's when you become less attuned to making those better decisions. So I think that's a big reason why I've been getting into the gym so much, because like I do have like all of this stuff, you know, you're an entrepreneur, you got to like, okay, when's the kids go to school? I got to do this appointment. I got to, you know, you're running and gunning, but then you get your workout in. I love to get mine in the morning. And then, you know, the rest of the day is like, okay. Like I feel really centered, which, Yeah.
I know what you mean.
It was really good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like those days that I do work out, I feel that I'm not as like it's
Right.
just, or it's like, I feel like, I don't know if you feel this when you're working out. Do you feel like it's like, that's when your creative juices are flowing? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, cause you're so clear.
Yep.
I feel like lately I've been like, wow, okay. I'm like, I wish I had like a little voice memo thing while I'm like running on the treadmill. I'm like, oh, I want to do this and that.
I've been doing some of that where it's like a post gym reflection. So like I'll be on the treadmill or and I'm thinking about stuff. I'm like, all right, I got to make a mental note, and then I'll post about it like after the gym. Like, oh, you know, I had this epiphany or I had this thought, and then just constantly getting it out there, which has been difficult for me to get into the consistency of posting because I'd like to have more impact in the world, and that's why I'm here. I feel like I want to serve and help
for sure,
drive impact. And actually a question comes up. How do you stay consistent with your socials, like the posting? Like, do you have it on a schedule? Do you have an assistant? Are you doing it?
When it came to Instagram, I felt like it didn't feel authentic. So I actually took a step back from Instagram because I felt like it was pictures, and then it's like it's so curated. And I listened to this one podcast, and Brian was like, "What?" He's like, "Are you listening to Gary Vee again?" Because I think he
Gary's
really
great.
wakes up and he's like, "Who gives an F about what like people think? Like, you should be posting and care about the lighting, don't care about this, like just post." And so I took that part out of it. And when I first started the TikTok, I let everyone know, like, I feel really uncomfortable right now. I've face-tuned all of my photos for so long on Instagram that no one knows that I even looked the way I looked, and it was a jump scare. And I was getting all of this, but I was able to get through it, and it kind of crushed me a little bit at first to hear the feedback or
like the ego a little bit got
the ego is always running the show sometimes, and I'm like, oh my god, I just want to kill it. Like, I just that's like a whole nother thing. But so and then when they say like just keep posting, like originally you get that first crew that's like, whoa, and then everyone wants a little part of like saying it, and then you just get over, then everyone's on to the next thing, right? So then I don't have like a schedule or anything. I just know like I will be posting every day. It doesn't matter what it's gonna be, but you just need to be posting.
Cool.
And staying on it, like, like putting the energy in. So interacting with other people on there is huge. Engagement. And I think like it's going to be easy because you're doing it from an authentic place and you're feeling really good about it, and you're going in wanting to help. And I think when you're going into something, and sometimes you're like, people want to be famous, and
they
it's
want
like
some out of it.
And I think going in my TikTok, it's been so successful because I'm going in and this is just like real raw, sometimes
your
like no makeup,
self.
authentic, like real conversations. And it's not going to be for everyone, but it's for your little niche that you're in. Like,
I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet. If like, 2% of them follow you, I mean, that's still like a lot of people.
Have you seen that one video that's like, what a room of 1,000 people looks like versus
no.
It's,
is that on TikTok?
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, because like some people are always looking at the numbers, like, oh my god, I can't believe I only have 1,000 followers.
Sure.
And this person's standing in a room, and what 1,000 people look like in the room, what even 100 people look like, and
it's
it shows
probably.
you, and you're like, wow. When you look at it like that, I think, and you take the numbers out of it, and you're doing it to help. I think that those days, I go on lives, and it'll 1, 3, 5 people. But at least I'm like communicating with those 5
and you're getting the reps in
people. Yes.
Yeah, which is so important. And I'm learning so much about this space because I haven't really been active much. I've been a consumer.
Yes.
Rather than a producer of content.
Yeah. I think you're gonna love it because it's something so different than any other platform. It's different than a Facebook. It's different than, I don't know if you're around with like MySpace, but Instagram, like it's just
We're
nothing.
Getting dated here.
Yeah, it's nothing that I've ever experienced, and I like the fact that just the community behind it, and I think like especially with their podcast, like you're gonna love it, and it's like everything else, right? Like when you're first starting, you're like, what is this? Like I'm still trying to figure out what the certain buttons, and it's a whole thing, but it's getting a little bit easier for sure. I think like now you have to figure out like, okay, what what are you putting in the queue for like your live, and what are you doing for that? But it's like just getting through like the posting part. I'm like, oh yeah, posting every day. And I remember that being like, what am I going to post? But you just, yeah.
So where can people find you?
Oh, on TikTok, it's cass.reeser.
Cool.
And and then I have my hair page. It's hello, can you hair me on Instagram.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's super nice to meet you.
Yes. So nice chatting.
Yeah. Have a really nice chat. So I think that's a wrap, you guys. Another episode of the Wealth and Wellness Podcast with Cassondra Segovia. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. If you like the channel, please do subscribe. Hit that button there on the bottom, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks.